Cuba. The island of Cuba has a population of over 11 million inhabitants. It is one of the few countries in the world where communism is alive and active today. This atheistic ideology has led the country to an economic and food crisis. The average wage is between $15 and $20 a month. You see old cars from the now defunct Soviet Union on the streets today, and people still live in old hovels which were built in the 1960s. Local residents receive food stamps. Shops open every morning with half-empty shelves, and there are long lines for bread and other daily necessities. The internet is illegal for Cubans. There are over 6,000 Russian speakers on the island of Cuba today, most of whom are women. Many young Russian girls immigrated to Cuba in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and as a result lost contact with their relatives and lost most of their money and documentation. Our team arrived in Santiago a few days after Hurricane Sandy hit Cuba. Hundreds of homes were ruined, and the city was left without telephone lines, electricity, and water.
In all the history of Cuba, we've never seen such a strong hurricane. Roofs were falling, trees were being ripped out with their roots. There were howling winds, you could hear the clashing of metal.
Our team arrived with humanitarian aid. We brought flashlights, candles, food, medicine, and other aid. In difficult times, it is important to note that people need not only material things, but also moral and spiritual support. Our missionaries arranged worship services for some residents. About a year ago, we saw many older people come to Christ in Santiago, and this past trip, those same people made a decision to take the next step in their faith and get water baptized. They entered the water and made a covenant with the Lord. The uniqueness of this baptism was that among all the ruins and the rubble of the hurricane, there was this voice of victory.
I am very happy that I got water baptized. It feels like someone released me from captivity and now I'm free. After I repented, my life changed a lot. I look at things differently now.
After the baptism, all the men in our group were ordered to report to the police, and our pastor was summoned as well. As a result, we were banned from all religious activities in Cuba. We conducted several outreaches in Havana. We really noticed that people were tired of the politics, poverty, and atheism of the last half-century. They were so hungry for God. The room was not filled with indifferent people. It was touching to watch as God descended on people in the room and changed their hearts. They did not try to hide their tears or emotions. At these meetings, we gave out gifts to children and adults as well. The most valuable gift was the Word of God, since there are so few Russian Bibles in Cuba. Our group also had our first opportunity to visit other provinces where Russian-speaking people live. We held a service and many of them came to Christ. Some people even mentioned that it was the first time they had heard about God.
We've never had a meeting like this. I have the desire to serve God now, to believe in Him. This is the first time I've seen something like this. I lived here for a long time, 22 years, and I can't even find the words to describe this. I'm very touched. I'm very thankful for this meeting, and I really don't want you to leave us. We all wanted to just cry from happiness and joy. I'm very glad that someone came and united us all. We really want these meetings to continue. Please support us. Please come back.
Throughout the trip, the missionaries had the opportunity to visit the sick, the lonely, and the elderly. The final piece of our mission trip was another water baptism. It is so amazing to see how people who were truly suffering and living in death yesterday could be made alive through an encounter with Christ.
Yesterday, I received water baptism. I now honestly feel like a happy person. Then light came into my life. I felt peace. All my grudges disappeared and my heart was rejoicing. I am very grateful for these missionaries, grateful that the joy that's inside of them they have passed on to us. They have planted a seed of faith in us. You have given us Russian Bibles. I thank God that you found us. You can't even imagine how much we needed you. Sometimes we don't have enough bread or meat, but what we've always needed was the Word of God. For a long time, we've lived on our own. Nobody cared to remember that we were here. In this short time, our brothers have done more for us than we have seen in 20 years. We are very thankful to you and ask you to continue praying for us.
They are in need of spiritual bread and encouragement. To date, it is still hard to send packages to Cuba, but your prayers and our prayers can reach them. Thank you so much for supporting the Slavic Missionary Bible School and especially this latest trip to Cuba.